All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to share screen so you can see my PowerPoint and get this all set up for you. All right, so hopefully you've got the PowerPoint pulled up. I am Mary Fitzgerald, the Secondary Life Skills Coordinator for high school and the VITAL program, our 18 Plus program. And today's pre-recorded session is on behavior, probably one of the biggest questions that we get. So I want to start out having a little bit of fun with y'all. I want you to spend just a moment, close your eyes if you need to for a little visualization, but I want you to think about a childhood experience in which you were told to eat something that you really, really disliked. As you close your eyes, visualize the room that you were in, the people that were there, the food, the smell, the texture, all those things you couldn't stand. So take a minute to think about that food. For me, it was peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches, something my father thought was a gourmet treat for his children. As you were a child and that food was put in front of you, I want you to think about, what did you do? What were some of the actions or behaviors that you engaged in? Did you get physically sick? Did you gag, throw up? Did you start to negotiate with the adults around you? If I take one bite, is that enough? What if I did this instead of this? So what are those behaviors that you engaged in? As you think about those behaviors, what were the feelings that you were having that went along with those behaviors? Were you feeling helpless, hopeless, frustrated, angry, physically sick? I mean, what were you feeling? All of those things that you did and all of those things that you felt are perfectly normal. So I want you to think about the students in your classroom. Do you ever have a time where you see them react out because of frustration or because of feeling helpless, and they're having to use some behaviors instead? Yeah, all the time, right? So as we move through this little online module, I want you to think about the fact that our students are engaging in behaviors for a very specific reason. It's addressing something they're feeling, it's addressing something they're experiencing, and they may not have the other words or tools to deal with what it is that they're going through. So I want you to keep that in mind as we work through this. As we get ready to address behaviors, I want you to think about what you do as a teacher in terms of proactive versus reactive. So a proactive strategy are those things that take place even before behaviors occur. It really comes down to great classroom management. Reactive strategies are those that take place after an event or stimulus, usually in opposition to a force or an influence. So a reactive strategy is, I have two students start to engage in verbal aggression with each other. I can't just ignore it. It's escalating. I have to be reactive. I have to do something. But where do we want our emphasis to be? On proactive as much as possible. So it really comes down to classroom management, which is our biggest, most effective proactive strategy. And it really isn't a life skills or a special ed issue. Classroom management is something that every teacher on your campus should really be thinking about how to set up and how to implement. So let's first define and discuss some classroom management expectations for our life skills classrooms. A good classroom manager allows learning to occur. So how do we do that? One, we have a set of routines and procedures that we directly teach to the students beginning first day of school. We make sure that the classroom's physical space allows easy movement, proximity, transitions. People can get around the room. It's not cluttered and there aren't boxes and things in the way. You begin the year with a set of rules or guidelines that you specifically teach and reinforce. You plan, you have that with itness. You're ready for anything. You deal with interruptions effectively, and boy, in life skills classrooms, we get a lot of interruptions. You encourage and nurture a sense of community, respect, and personal relationships. You have a collection of corrective consequences for those mild misbehaviors, meaning you have a plan. You have a repertoire of options for dealing with discipline problems. That's that withedness. We're not just winging it. And you know when to bend the rules and when not to. So when you think about classroom management components, and yes, this is all related to student behavior, you're thinking about the physical environment, routines, procedures, lesson planning, differentiation in instruction and activity so students have just what they need. You may have some class-wide positive behavior supports. You have good time management, you nurture relationships, and you have emergency and contingency plans already well thought out. So let's talk about those emergency plans, because it doesn't matter how organized you are, how great classroom management you have, you need to be prepared to expect the unexpected. So a good emergency plan, every staff member knows exactly what he or she is to do for a possible scenario, meaning maybe my job as a paraeducator to immediately contact administration and the nurse. Maybe another person knows that I'm the one that removes the other students from the class to a safer environment. Or I know I'm the one that stays with the student. I have a good relationship with them. I know how to facilitate. Maybe I'm the person that starts the documentation. I write down when the event started. I'm tracking how long the restraint was, things like that. If you find yourself in the need to have to evacuate students, please have a plan for instruction to continue. So you might have a tote bag you pick up that you take, or a small box of materials you take, so that if you evacuate to the library or another life skills classroom, you're bringing instructional materials along with you. And then of course there's a follow-up plan. I need to talk with the family, I need to talk with campus administration. Maybe we need to do some brainstorming on, if this is happening often, what do we need to do differently so it's not happening quite so often? But good classroom management plans have those emergency situations. So what kind of things might happen that would require an emergency plan? Everything from a behavioral crisis to medical, student had a seizure, school safety, there was an intruder in the building, we had a weather emergency, many things. So don't think of this as only a student behavioral issue. All right, so you've determined that the behavioral challenges you are experiencing may not be directly linked to classroom management, but you still might not be ready to launch the full request for behavior support, referral to the Carlton Center, or making a significant change to the behavior intervention plan. There are a few more things that you need to consider. So before you ask or panic, many of these are unique to life skills and special ed. So let's kind of go through them. Breathe and ask the following. As you work in collaboration with others, and with behavior, you always need to be part of a team. Don't feel like you have to be the one and only expert. Your team might be other life skills staff members, including paraeducators, related service staff, curriculum coach, behavior coach. You might call upon me as the coordinator. But you want to think about, what am I teaching the student in regards to appropriate behavior, social skills, or communication skills? Does the student have a behavior goal and a behavior plan, and are you following that plan? And I know a lot of you will say, yes, I'm following the plan. Many times we find there are many components of the behavior plan that really haven't been appropriately implemented. Is the behavior plan effective? Maybe it was written before certain behaviors became prevalent. So maybe we need to rewrite the goal. And in order to do that, I have to have a good foundation of behavioral data. All right, so before you ask for help, have you really talked to the student in whatever format's appropriate for them, the expectations? Does the student have some visual supports and a predictable schedule to follow? Do they have a meaningful and consistent way to communicate with others? Is the student given opportunities to make choices? And are the opportunities for social interactions throughout the day? They're not just sitting by themselves or only working with an adult. Do they get to interact with other young people? Is the student engaged in meaningful instructional activities and following the curriculum, not just doing and redoing shoebox tasks and folder activities all throughout the day?